Hello and welcome to this Desteni I Process Hangout in the series of Practical Self-Empowerment. So today we'll be looking at the concept and experience of competition, and specifically competition as how it exists in your mind. So please feel free to, to participate with comments and questions, and we'll do our best to answer them. So with us today is our guest, Anthony Field from Australia. Hi, Anthony.
Hi, Kim, and hi, everybody.
So, Anthony, would you say that you have walked a process in your life wherein you've specifically investigated and discovered how competition exists in your mind in terms of, understanding how it works, how it came to be, and what it does inside of yourself and in relation to your environment?
Yeah, definitely. I have walked this point of competition. I've written about it a lot within like self-forgiveness and commitment statements, which is all to do with Desteni and the DIP process, slide and pro. Because competition it's been a big factor in my life, and I'm sure the lives of others. Whereas like me personally, like I'm always out to be number one and to win everything and to be the best at everything. And within that, I've seen that it really takes a hold on me, and it's like this weight on my shoulders. Like I put so much pressure on myself to like be the best at everything. And because the reality of the situation is I'm not the best at everything. It's just what I wish that to be. But yeah, as I've said, I've walked the process of competition and what it means to be in competition and be in a competitive way, like not only in sport, which is where I first encountered competition. Like that's like the kind of the most relevant kind of situation. Like sport and competition, they kind of go hand in hand. But it's interesting too. Like I've seen competition. Like competition can come out of anything. Like for instance, at work, like trying to be better than a fellow employee, and just in other examples, which I guess we'll talk about later. But yeah, it's interesting how competition pops up everywhere and in society generally. Like it's like kind of like one business against another business and another person against another person, and that goes for like obviously like the recent events in Paris and other places, like the terror and destruction and the deaths. It's all like about profit and like ego, and it's all a competition and about profit. So yeah, I mean, competition, it's so prevalent in probably everybody, and myself obviously, and it really gets us nowhere. I mean, anyone can see the destruction we've caused as humans to the world through competition and trying to compete against everything, one another. Yeah.
Cool. So you've raised already a lot of topics in terms of how competition plays out, not only in our own mind, but also in the world that we exist in. So these are topics that we'll definitely be covering and opening up in this hangout. So, my first question for you would be what the thoughts and experiences are in your mind that you can look out for if you want to detect and identify if and how competition exists in your mind. So like, what are the thoughts and emotions or feelings to look out for?
Like I was saying previously, sport is the big one that I first encountered competition within and as. And I can remember like, because I've always been into sport, but like, for instance, like soccer, I was into soccer for like the majority of my teenage years. And I can remember like before a match and during a match, this kind of like, I guess, anger. And like, I'd kind of just try and be really aggressive, like trying to like win the ball and like tackle people and shoot and like do anything I could to get the ball. So there's anger, and there's also like this, yeah, like it's just kind of this energetic feeling and sensation, and it's kind of like wanting to feed that, like by like, yeah, just like doing what I can to be the best. And yeah, so I think it's like kind of this like anger and this kind of aggression that comes into play and comes into the mind, and then it just goes from there. Like I just do everything to be competitive, and one does everything to be competitive just to win, and within that you kind of ignore and suppress what is best for all for the sake of like winning and doing the best, which is, it's obviously not a helpful thing, because what we should be doing is, yeah, doing what's best for all and what's best for each other, in terms of like being kind to one another and supporting and assisting one another. But yeah, so I think it's just like anger and aggression, I think, are the emotions, for me at least, that come into play during competition and when wanting to like kind of fire up and like kind of get the juices running, I suppose.
Okay, interesting. I mean, because that's like really in relation to an actual physical competition, like a soccer game, where you like have to kind of pump yourself up in order to win. So, you know, that's interesting for me because I've never really been in sports like that, and I've never really enjoyed being in competitions because of the fact that you'd have to be aggressive, and I never defined myself as an aggressive person. So when I knew about the topic of this hangout, for me, my interpretation of competition and like competitive thoughts was more like just these thoughts where, you know, you just see yourself as better than others, or, you know, it's like these kind of hidden secret thoughts in the back of your mind where you're just kind of feeling superior in certain things because you think or you know that you're better at those things than other people. So it's like really seeing other people as simply less than you. But, you know, it's those kind of thoughts that we're not easily honest about with ourselves or other people, because obviously it's not nice, you know, it's not part of being a good person or a, you know, politically correct person. So is that something that you can also relate to?
Yeah. So like, yeah, like what you're saying, feeling superior to everybody, believing everybody's second best or worst, and it like goes hand in hand with like this ego, and wanting to build oneself up and, you know, just be like, oh, I'm on top of the world and everybody else is kind of below and on the ground. And yeah, it's kind of easy to get sucked into this like desire to like fuel the ego and do all that can be done to like kind of prove that oneself is the best at everything. And when that doesn't go to plan, and like I'm talking about personal experience here, when it doesn't go to plan, like, so when I see myself as the best at whatever it is, and then I actually put it into physical and practical movement, and it doesn't work, I see that I'm not the best, I get really angry at myself and like go into like self-defeat, because like I had this idea that I was the best, but in reality I wasn't the best. And that can be based on like I wasn't skilled enough for like soccer or a sport, or I didn't practice enough. And that can be for anything, like a work role or school, like studying. Like I thought I'd do amazing on a test and beat everybody's scores, but it was just an idea in my mind. So it's funny how we kind of feed that and follow that, those thoughts, that we're the best, when in reality, like the reality of the situation is we're not as good as we think. And because it always comes down to the practical and real things, like how much study one does for a test. I mean, there's nothing other than that. Like if you know your stuff, you're going to do well on a test. If you don't know your stuff, but you think you're the best, you're not going to do well on a test. So, and that was something I found within this competition point too. Like I saw that it all came down to like skill and like, yeah, like knowledge and practice, because that's the real things. And that's like what actually makes you good at something. You know, it's not like anger and like ego and things like that, emotions, feelings. It's like the real stuff that actually gets you somewhere and puts you, like gets you somewhere in life and puts you in a good position in life within sport and jobs and whatever else it is.
Yeah, so you know what you mentioned about the consequences of the feeling superior and competing in your mind, basically within this idea of, you know, I'm the best, or I'm going to be the best, or I want to be the best, is that you already mentioned some experiences that can actually result from that, which is, for instance, being angry with yourself when you see that it's not panning out the way that you had kind of envisioned it in your mind. So are there other types of experiences or consequences that you can identify in relation to this competitive kind of mindset?
Yeah, well, yeah, I kind of touched on it before earlier, but like you kind of only look out for yourself and like self-interest, which kind of goes hand in hand with like the ego point and kind of disregarding anyone else, which, yeah, is like a major consequence of like being in this competitive mind frame and yeah, thinking you're the best and thinking one is the best. Any other consequences? No, I think that's about all. Yeah, I think that's about it.
Cool. Well, from my experience, because my experience was maybe also a little bit different from yours, but also has to do with the competition kind of mindset, where a consequence that I experienced a lot was actually where I would put so much pressure on myself to perform and to be the image of perfection almost that I had envisioned in my mind, and to want to be the best, that eventually I would experience so much pressure that I just ended up giving up and caving in, and I would go into this emotional experience of, I can't do this, I'm not good enough, I'm a failure. And so the word failure would be, you know, the key term here, where, you know, it's a consequence of wanting to compete and wanting to succeed and be the best, because you're working with a polarity, which is either the best or the worst, either more or less. So, and as you said, also the anger with yourself then comes from that, of like beating up on yourself, like why couldn't I do that? Why couldn't I, you know, be who I believed that I needed to be, which is better than others? So, you know, it's those kind of consequences of emotional experiences that I think a lot of people can actually identify with and relate to within themselves, and that also are kind of giveaway points inside of yourself that you can identify and detect as signs that you're dealing with competition in your mind. Because like I said, the actual point of competition, which is where you want to be better than others, will often be hidden in your mind. So the emotional aspect, which is the consequence of it, will most likely be more easily detectable for most people, which is where you're being hard on yourself.
That's a good point. One other thing I was going to say, just while you're talking about the consequences and failure, is also the consequence that one has on their physical body, and like because you put yourself through all that pressure and stress to meet this standard, and also within failure, like, you know, all that stress, and I mean it's kind of internal, but I'm sure it does the world of, like, it can do bad things to one's body in the end, like all the stress and like onto one's heart and like inner organs. Yeah, I just wanted to quickly mention that.
No, that's a very good point, and you know, definitely a very important point to include here, which is the strain that you're putting on your physical body. I mean, not only physical exertion in things like soccer games. I mean, there are so many athletes that just completely collapse, whose physical bodies give out after the age of like 30 or 35, just because they've been pushing themselves so much in that energy of aggression and anger and things like that. And as well as, you know, all these emotional experiences will also have an impact on the heart and on other organs inside of the body. So that's definitely a very good point to mention. So, you know, can you maybe speak a bit about what you've discovered and seen in terms of how and when this pattern of competition developed in your life?
Yeah, so kind of like I said, I first encountered competition in our sport itself, and like, yeah, wanting to be the best and everything, and wanting to be better than everybody, and believing I had something to prove to myself and like my coaches and my fellow like players, like my teammates, I should say. So sport was where it was the most apparent, this competition point. But I also saw it, interestingly, in like, I noticed this in like, with my brother, and like wanting to, like when we did things together, like I wanted to be like better than him and like do everything better than he did it. And I saw that, like, I think it was because of a few things, and they were like wanting like my parents like satisfaction, like, and their kind of affection, and their wanting there's like the spotlight to be on me, and wanting them to think I'm the best kid, sort of thing. So because there's only two of us, and yeah, so there's always this kind of rivalry in that sense. And within that, yeah, like it goes back to it wasn't what was best for all. Like I was kind of not looking out for my brother, and I was like ignoring what he wants and needs in favor of just my own self-interest and ego and wanting to prove myself as the best. So that's obviously not the way to go about it, because yeah, if it's just myself and my own self-interest, then yeah, it's not what is best for all. So yeah.
That's very cool that you mentioned that, like the relationship between you and your brother, because I also had a brother, and I can definitely recognize that pattern of kind of wanting to be better than they are in terms of like getting the attention of your parents, basically. So whenever, like, he was seen as basically like a problem child in my family, and I was like a good little girl. So that made me feel good about myself every time that they mentioned just how bad he was. And like in retrospect, looking back on it, it was like, you know, how can you have such a mindset where you actually derive pleasure out of seeing another person be less than you and do less or worse in their life? You know, and that's when we're children. Like, if anything, I should have been there as a big sister to assist him and support him. Then I would have had fulfillment for myself as well. I would have kind of taken pride and respect in the fact that I know that I'm taking that responsibility to help another being, because the fact that I'm better than he was in terms of my vocabulary or a certain skill level doesn't mean that I have to now take advantage of that. Rather means that I have to use that skill and apparent superiority to assist him, you know? So it's a very interesting phenomenon, this kind of sibling rivalry, which has become very accepted as a normal thing of childhood development, when actually it's not that normal. It's actually kind of a result of a lack of awareness from, you know, from parents and from the educational system in terms of how children can be assisted and supported to use their skills and to use their advancements to rather assist and support others instead of using it to diminish others.
Yeah, one other, after you mentioned that, regarding the sibling rivalry again, one memory that I just thought of was, it wasn't what was best for all, but I guess I thought it was initially, but it was like, my brother was at like kinder and I was there with him, and I saw like another kid like kind of bullying my brother, and sort of like verbally bullying him and things. And so I wanted to like stand up for him, and so I kind of got into a fight with this other person. And I guess at the time I was like, oh, I'm just sticking up for my brother. That's what families do. But I see now that it was also to do with like proving that I was kind of like strong and like one of the best fighters or something like that. And yeah, I mean, I guess in my own way, I was trying to do what was right, but I wasn't doing what was right. Like I injured somebody else, and I think I got like detention or something. So yeah, I just wanted to point that out. I just wanted to say that example.
No, that's really cool. And it also reminds me of moments where I kind of wanted to stand up for my brother, and that's another aspect actually of how competition can exist within the family realm. Like, I'm going to defend my family, I'm going to stand up for my family against other people, rather than looking at situations in terms of, okay, what's actually best for everyone involved, be it family or no family, it doesn't matter. You know, so competition exists on multiple levels in our reality and in our mind, which is all very interesting to, you know, look at and consider.
Definitely.
So could you maybe share a little bit of your understanding of why competition can be so prevalent, as we've just seen, you know, can be such a huge thing that exists on so many levels inside of ourselves and our society? Could you maybe share a little bit of your understanding of why that is, that competition is such a big thing inside of ourselves and our world?
Yeah, inside of ourselves. I think, yeah, like as a child, like I always saw, I keep bringing it back to the sport point, but for me, like sport was such a massive part of my life and my childhood, because my parents loved sport too, like any sport. And I'm seeing like the kind of victories and everything and how happy people were. And I guess they also did it for the money and things. But yeah, like that kind of just, yeah, it made me want to, yeah, like be competitive. And the competition, yeah, and like in the world, why is it so prevalent? Yeah, because like it's all about like profit really, and like kind of proving oneself, that oneself is better than the rest. And yeah, I think that's about that. Yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, basically what you're saying is that because of the world and the economic system basically that we're born into, which is money, competition, survival, you're actually automatically pushed into becoming a part of that. So it's like your internal world then kind of becomes a reflection of the external world, which then kind of becomes a feedback loop.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And yeah, like you said, like there's kind of no other road to go down. Like, because everyone else is doing it, then you have no choice. One has no choice but to go along with it and go into that competitive world and environment. It's just like businesses and everything. Like one business might pull like a kind of dodgy move, or something like commit like fraud or something, but it might go unnoticed or whatever, or nobody cares. So another business has to capitalize on that by doing the same thing. So, you know, it's interesting how it's like a chain reaction. So if one person does it, another person does it, another person does it, it just keeps going on, and it's like an endless road of just corruption and manipulation, just for like winning and being the best and profit. And like we've been saying, it can be seen in like so many facets in the world and in our lives.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point, like how you're kind of sucked into it and you have to go along with it, because, you know, things like war, for instance, which is a form of, you know, definitely a form of competition. Like, okay, we have to beat the enemy and we have to overcome and like destroy the enemy so that we can be the victor. I mean, there are so many soldiers, like people who go to war and they see that destruction and they take part in that destruction, who then end up actually completely regretting their decision when they're actually faced with the reality of what this means. It's not just an idea in their mind of, oh yeah, we're just gonna overcome the enemy and we're gonna destroy the bad guys. It's like, people, when you're face to face with another person, it's like a part of you does understand and realize that destroying the other person is not who you really are. It's like not a real natural thing to do. But at the same time, it's like, okay, you're a soldier, you have to take orders. It's just part of kind of what you signed up for, which is this world. And there are so many also people who work for certain companies who have to execute decisions that are made by, you know, executive people in that company, you know, and where you kind of feel stuck because you know that
Hello, Kim?
this competition mindset that we've been discussing has shaped the current reality that we find ourselves in and that we see around us. So, you know, how is it that our competition mindset is playing out in the world that we see around us?
Oh, I missed what you said. Did you say something previously before that?
Oh dear, yes, I was talking, but my laptop is letting me know that the internet connection is a little bit funky at this time. So,
yeah.
did you hear my last question? Okay, so
no, I didn't.
So could you maybe share a little bit about how the competition mindset, like how competition in our mind has kind of translated itself into life on Earth, and what basically the consequences are in this world of the fact that we participate in competition in our mind?
Yeah. So, yeah. I mean, obviously, it's just like it only creates severe consequences, like this competition mindset and participation with emotions and feelings, like desires and like ego, wanting to be the best and everything. And the consequences, was it consequences on the world you were asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, the consequences on the world is just like, I mean, it's it's actually something like, you know, like humans, for instance, like we see animals and like insects and things like any other form of life as like just not equal to ourselves and like less than. That's like the competition point as well, like, and we kind of just disregard them and just kill them for like food and whatever other reason. But like, yeah, like it only it only puts out a world of destruction, and like this competition, like it doesn't do anything good. So, yeah.
Yeah, so like in terms of our relationship with nature, that's definitely one of the most consequential and harmful, you know, results that we're seeing in terms of what that competition mindset actually does to who we are as people and how we interact with the life that's around us. And it's like the situation with war, it's like we kind of have to participate in it, but at the same time, a lot of people deep down kind of know that this is not okay, what we're doing to animals and nature. Like there's this kind of deep knowing and awareness that harming another being is just not okay, especially not in the way that what we're doing, which is like a systematic way of simply destroying and exploiting life in various ways.
Yeah, and because like everyone else does it, it's kind of just like accepted, and everyone just follows on blindly without kind of raising the question about it actually being incorrect to do and not is what is best for all. So, and I guess no one really has kind of the guts to like say something. So it's important, obviously, to like raise one's hand and kind of point out the shit that we're in and where everybody's in, and yeah, and that can help others in terms of awareness, and because we need to change our whole world, and not, yeah, and competition's a huge part of that, like getting rid of this competition mindset, so that we avoid this kind of ego and self-interest, and just making ourselves want to feel good, and changing it into something that benefits everybody and everything, and that'll help the world and everyone in it and everything in it to live more comfortably.
Yeah, so that's basically what I was also going to mention. Like many people who do have that awareness that a lot of things that are happening in the world today are just not right and things need to change. A lot of people still feel like, okay, what do I do now? There's like this powerlessness in relation to solutions. Like what are actually real solutions that you can apply on an individual level where you don't have to become an activist, you don't have to change your entire lifestyle or give up so many things. So that's basically what this hangout is about, the first step is to change your mindset, is to simply change who you are inside of yourself, within the awareness that, you as an individual are part of creating this world. Who you are inside is a part of the reason why this whole world exists the way that it does. So the solution has to come from within. So that brings me to my next question, which is, Anthony, how have you been able to change this competition mindset in your life and, in yourself?
Yeah, so what you were saying, yeah, like, Desteni itself, which is a set of tools and like a whole stack of information, interviews and vlogs and blogs and just anything you can think of. Yeah. So that's how I changed, and that's why I am the way I am in terms of like a better person, and I can see like what's best for all and do things for what's best for all. So Desteni, yeah, like writing and doing my self-forgiveness and realizations, commitment statements, and that's got me to a point of kind of forgiving myself for accepting and allowing myself to always strive to be in this competition mindset and this egotistical mindset and this self-interest, and that's what the writing within Desteni does. So one kind of forgives oneself for all of these points and all of these points that the mind has, well, that one allows the mind to direct us by. And then like with the commitment statements, yeah, it's just kind of like the change part so that one no longer kind of returns to that previous mindset and the competition mindset of the ego and the self-interest. So yeah, writing is like, that's the most necessary thing about this, because like you were saying, it has to come, the solutions are inside of ourselves, and it's up to each one of us to change ourselves, because, you know, we can't just expect someone else to change and then just so that we can just keep living our supposed comfortable lives. It's up to each one of us to do something about it, and then for each one of us to be an example to another. And so we have to create a chain reaction of change through Desteni and the tools within Desteni, writing, self-forgiveness, commitment statements, so that we can be what it means to actually be life in itself, life that cares for what is best for all.
Cool. So for those who are watching and who are interested in, Anthony was mentioning in terms of writing and self-forgiveness and self-commitment statements, there is this course called the DIP Lite, which will walk you through these, how to practically start using these tools in your life. It's a very basic, simple course, and I will place the link below the video in the description. So, Anthony, I was wondering if you could share a little bit about the benefits and the change that you have seen and experienced in your life by changing this competition mindset.
Yeah, the benefits I've seen have been countless. So I've mainly been, like I've been saying through the Hangout, I've mainly seen this competition point in sport. And I've been playing like sport. Even today, I was like playing pool with a few other people. And, it was just like kind of, I mean, obviously, like at the same time, we're trying to like win and outdo each other. But from my personal perspective, like I was, and in other cases after writing and getting myself out of this competition mindset, I've been more like relaxed and like kind of stress-free. And I take more risks in terms of, and taking more chances. So it's kind of just like, so I haven't been trying to like meet this kind of mindset and this idea of what I have to be or what I should be in competition. And I'm able to like, so now that like I have nothing to like meet, like no kind of mindset or anything, I'm able to just kind of be like, just be myself here, and I can just kind of do things more naturally, I guess, and more freely. So it's really cool. Like I'm able to like enjoy myself more. So like I was saying, like I still try to like win in terms of like actual sport, because I mean that's the idea. But I don't get caught up with like emotions and feelings. Like if I lose a point or if I lose the match, it's not a huge deal. It's just a game. And as long as I was enjoying my time in the sport itself, which I have been and which I do now, that's the main thing. And it all just, in terms of sport again, it all just comes down to like skill, and like that's the only thing that sets one apart from another. And outside of sport, I've seen other examples, like kind of whilst driving. For instance, like I've kind of had this feeling myself, and I think others have too, like trying to kind of like who's the fastest, like who drives the fastest and everything. And I kind of don't get caught up in that anymore. Like I can just kind of drive like safely, because I don't want to cause, and I'm sure nobody should want to cause any accidents or anything just out of like wanting to prove that they're the fastest driver, for instance. So I just do things more like calmly and coolly, and it's really cool because I can just be, I can take more risks, and just, yeah, it just works out a whole lot better in that way. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's definitely something that I can relate to as well. Like the point of enjoyment, which comes from understanding and realizing this point of, there really is no competition. It's just like, in reality, no one is better than another because of the simple kind of physical facts that, for instance, one person has developed a certain skill throughout their life a lot more, plus genetics, plus, certain advances or certain privileges that they've enjoyed in their life, which have created an opportunity for them to develop a certain skill. So, I mean, within that understanding, I've found for myself that it's a lot, it's like you experience more of an opening to be able to learn from another person, as well as communicate more and communicate better with people, so that you can actually learn from people rather than going into that mindset of either feeling better or more than them, or feeling defeated and feeling less than them. So, for myself, I found that a primary benefit from changing that competition mindset is that you can find enjoyment within relationships with other people. Like you connect more with people on a real intimate, deeper level, rather than being in your mind where you're constantly comparing yourself to them.
Yeah, that's a really good point, actually. Yeah, I've seen that too within my own life. Like you said, you can take in more information from others, and actually see what they do and accept what they do and ask for assistance, and that all goes to show how how open one is, and willing to actually accept that, okay, another is better than me at something, because they have practiced more, or they have a higher skill level, or like you were saying, they've had a better life, or they've had the money or better privileges. And I can learn from them and apply it to my own self and my own life, and so that I can reach that goal as well, and be, maybe, I don't know, as successful as they are, or as good as they are in terms of skill level, or whatever it is, like study scores or exam scores. So the more the less we're in this kind of ego competition mindset, the more we can accept and actually change ourselves and improve on ourselves.
Yeah, definitely very cool. So it looks like we've reached the end of our hangout. Is there any points that you would still like to share?
No, I think that we've covered quite a bit of ground here. Yeah, I think that's about it from me.
Yeah, awesome. Okay, I really enjoyed this hangout, and I hope that people who have been watching enjoyed it as well. So thank you, Anthony, for being here, and everyone at home or at work. So bye, everyone.
Thank you, Kim. Bye.
Bye.